So far, we've seen the three case studies, where life without rights is. For example, we saw the case of Guantanamo Bay prison. Then we saw the citizens' rights in Saudi Arabia. Then we saw the ethnic massacre in Kosovo. Now let's talk about rights in a democracy. Think of all the examples that we've discussed so far. Think of the victim, victims in each examples, the prisoners in the Guantanamo Bay, women. We Let's talk about the victims. Who are the victims? The prisoners, the women in Saudi Arabia, and the Albanians in Kosovo. So, if you were in their position, what would you have wished? If you could, if you could, what would you do to ensure that such things do not happen to anyone? You would perhaps desire a system where security, dignity, everybody wants a system where there's dignity, where there's security, and there's fair play. Everybody is given the right, fair opportunity, right? So, for example, you might want that no one should be arrested without proper reason and information, and if someone is arrested, then he she may, this thing should have a fair chance to defend themselves, that they have not committed a particular crime or that they are not guilty. You might agree that such assurance cannot apply to everything. One has to be reasonable in what one aspects and demands of everyone else, for one has to grant the same to everyone. But you might insist that the assurance does not remain on paper, that there is someone to enforce these assurances, that those who violate these are punished. In other words, you might want a system where at least a minimum is guaranteed to everyone, whether that person is rich, poor, powerful, or weak, majority, or a minority. This is the spirit behind thinking about rights, and this is the idea, the concept, that why we should all have rights. So, what are rights? Rights are claims of a person over other fellow beings, over the society, and over the government. So these are the claims which are made by people, over fellow beings, over the government, or even the society. All of us want to live happily and without fear and without being subjected to degraded treatment. Everybody wants to be treated nicely. For this, we expect others to behave in such a way that does not harm us or hurt us. Equally, our actions should not harm or hurt others. So a right is possible when you make a claim that is equally possible for others. You cannot have a right that harms or hurts others. You cannot have a right to play a game in such a way that it breaks the neighbor's window. The Serbs in Yugoslavia could not have claimed the whole country for themselves, because Albanians were also part of it. These claims we make should be reasonable. Whatever we say that, we want this or that, it should be reasonable enough to actually even claim it. They should be such that they can be made available to others in an equal measure. Thus, a right comes with an obligation to respect others' rights. So, if you want your right to be respected, then you are obliged to even respect other person's right. Okay, just because we claim something doesn't, become our right. Just because I'm saying that this and that does not mean that that's actually my right. Okay, it has to be recognized by the society we live in. Rights acquire meaning only in societies. uh, every society makes certain rules to regulate our conduct. There are Every society has certain norms, regulations, and etc, how one should behave and in what manner. They tell us what is right and what is wrong, what is recognized by the society as rightful becomes the basis of rights. That is why the notion of rights changes from time to time and society to society, and that is why something which is right in one society might not be similar in another society, and it even changes time to time. Okay, 200 years ago, anyone who said that women should have the right to vote would have sounded strange. Today, not granting them vote in Saudi Arabia, appears strange, because now we know that women are equally capable of voting and making a correct choice, right? When the socially recognized claims are written into the law, they acquire real force. And when these claims which are socially recognized, they are written into law, they they have a real force, otherwise they remain merely as natural or moral rights. Otherwise we'll say, "Arey, it's if you feel like you do it, if you don't feel like, you are not obliged." The prisoners in Guantanamo Bay had a moral claim not to be tortured or humiliated, but they could not go to anyone to enforce this claim. Okay, it was maybe the moral claim that the prisoners, who were there captured, they were not to be beaten, and they were supposed to be, and they should have been given a certain level of respect. But how do we guarantee then, we are not going and seeing them whether they are being beaten, or whether they are being proper respect, or whether they're giving the basic necessities? It's just a moral claim that can only be enforced if the person who are in charge, they take care of it. When law recognizes some claims, they become enforceable, and that is how one law actually becomes enforceable. We can then demand their application. When fellow citizens or the government do not respect these rights, we call them a violation or infringement of our rights. And if some of our rights, they're not followed, then that is why when we say that, there was infringement of my right, or there was violation of my right. In such circumstances, as citizens can approach court, we can go to court, or to protect our rights. Okay, so if you want to call any claim a right, it has to have three qualities. Rights are reasonable claims of person recognized by society and sanctioned by law. So this is very important, that the whatever we claim as rights, they has to be a reasonable claim, and they have to be recognized by society. If you only say that you have this right, and society does not recognize it, how are you going to get that right? Because it is, you live in a society, right? And even if chalo society says okay, but if there's no one of forcing enforcing that authority, then you cannot have it. For just for example, wearing helmets is necessary. Okay, firstly it is necessary for your own safety, and also because it's in the law, under the motor vehicle act, that you have to wear, the rider has to wear an helmet. But it is, if nobody follows it, the society and everybody, nobody follows it, that it cannot be, if it's not recognized and accepted by the society, then we cannot do anything. And chalo, we say that, this is, everybody is supposed to wear their helmet, and even if it is accepted by society, if nobody is there to check, then how will, who then there's no point. It's the same for whether somebody who's wearing the helmet and somebody who's not wearing the helmet. For example, if we don't have the system of police institution, okay, then nobody will charge the person who's not wearing helmet, right? Nobody will stop the person who's not wearing helmet. So there has to be, it has to be accepted by society that yes, we are going to wear the helmet, and it has also has to be sanctioned by law. For example, under the motor vehicles act, that if you are not wearing your helmet, then you will be this you'll get a ticket or a challan. Okay, so this is a very important thing that's been stated, that the rights, have to be have they have to have a reasonable claim, and they cannot just be made with claim. These claims cannot just be made by you if they are not recognized by the society, and also if there is not a body to enforce it. Why do we need the rights? Why do we need rights in a sort democracy? Rights are necessary for the very subsistence of a democracy. Subsistence मतलब वो जो, ताकि वो चल सके, जो पूरा डेमोक्रेसी का कॉन्सेप्ट है, and everything we've studied so far, it's all built on rights, on opportunity, on protecting people. In a democracy, every citizen has to have the right to vote, and the right to elect the government, elect to the government. Okay, for democratic elections to take place, it is necessary that citizens should have the right to express their opinion, form political parties, and take part in political activities. So this is very important that they should have the right to express the opinions, form political parties, or and even take part in political act or political politics related activity. Rights also perform a very special role in a democracy. Rights protect minorities from the oppression of majority. A lot of times we've seen that people who are in majority, they tend to overpower the people who are less in number and are in a minority. Okay, they ensure that the majority cannot do whatever it likes. Rights are guarantees which can be used when things go wrong, and this, you should never take advantage, and you should only because these rights guarantee when things go wrong. Okay, things may go wrong when some citizens may wish to take away the rights of others. This usually happens when those in majority want to dominate this. This is very important. Those in minority, the government should protect the citizens' rights in such a situation. But sometimes elected governments may not protect, or may even attack the rights of their own citizens. A lot of times we've seen that the country comes under dictatorship and everything. Okay, so that also needs to be protected, that people do not suffer. That is why some rights need to be placed higher than the government, so that the government cannot violate them. And that is why some rights are even above the government, because we know we all are humans and we can make mistakes, right? And so is with this, that they can the government can also sometimes violate our rights, and just for that we have all this over system violate them. In most democracies, the basic rights of the citizens are written down in the constitution. So constitution actually has everything written. So here's this, what does this cartoon says: what are the examples of elected governments not protecting or even attacking the rights of their own citizens? What do they, why do that? So I would like to give here the example of Rohingya crisis. So people, military, it was under, we've studied, the lady we studied, wait, I'll show you. In the previous chapter, previous chapters, we studied about Myanmar and everything, right? We even saw that the leader under the cage of military, right? So I'll show you, wait, so that you don't get confused. See this, you remember this thing? So she was Wang San Su. So in the recent past years, what has happened in Myanmar, that there was this military, who there was a massacre of people belonging to Rohingya, um, this community, and they were actually, there was this mass discrimination and everything also. The military, they would they would kill people belonging to Rohingya. So this is how I want to show you that sometimes even the government can and this was happening all under the nose of their leader, Mr. Wang Swansu, and she could not even do anything. Right now, though, she's in under house arrest presently. In September 2021, she's in under house arrest, and she's going to be taken to court and all the verdict. And you know what? All the charges that she's been charged for, none of them has all of them has a minimum punishment of 15 years. So just imagine, she has so many charges, and 15, of course, the she'll only be punished for 15 years, and or another other charges. But I want to highlight this thing because that's been going on the news and everything, and I would like to share it with you. So we see how governments are here taking the rights of their own citizens, right? So Myanmar, you can read about, you can Google Rohingya crisis and get, if you're interested, you can read about it. It's a good time, take out some time and just read through it. It will increase your concept and evolve your mind. So let's talk about the rights in the Indian constitution. Okay, India, like most other democracies in the world, these rights are mentioned in the constitution. Some rights which are fundamental to our life are given in are given, some are given special status. These are called fundamental rights. Of course, all the rights, which are given to us, these are written in the constitution, but there are special rights which are known as fundamental rights. We have already read in chapter 3, in chapter 3, the preamble of our constitution. It talks about securing for all its citizens equality, liberty, and justice. So these are the important things, where our preamble talks about equality, it talks about liberty, and it talks about justice. Fundamental rights put this promise into effect. And how do we, assure them? We ensure, of course, everything has to be assured through enforcement. So here the enforcement is through, our fundamental rights, which is always, it's a special status. Some laws are, above the other rights. Some rights are, more important than other rights. Okay. So, promise into effect. They are an important basic feature of India's constitution. You already know our constitution provides six. You already know that there are six fundamental rights, and one by one we'll study them all. Okay, six fundamental. Can you recall these rights? What exactly do these rights mean for an ordinary citizens? Look at these all one by one. So we have right again. We have. Uh, Go from here. Okay, right to equality, then we have right to, against exploitation, then we have right against, right to cultural and educational rights, we have right to freedom of religion. Any religion you want to follow, you can follow. Then we have right to freedom, your right to speech and expression is in this. Then you have right to constitutional remedies. If you think that any of your these special rights are being violated, you can approach court and they will give a solution. Everyone knows that a rich can have better lawyers in the court. What is the point in talking equally before law? Of course, yes, that is a point, that richer people can afford to hire better lawyers and everything. But the judge is not blind. The judges have their own experience, and you cannot beat the judge. you know there's this very, nice saying. I don't remember who said it. It was recently in the news. I am sorry, I cannot recall which judge said this line, but the judge said that, when a case goes to a court, okay, both the parties knows who is wrong and who is right, who did what, who did that, and everything. Both the parties knows, and it is only the judge that does not know. Okay, so he says that it is not the both parties which are being tested, okay, in this process of a case. It is the judge who's being tested. Okay, that even he has all the evidences in his place in front of him, and it is actually him who's being tested and not the two parties. So this is a very beautiful, way how the judge, some, I'm sorry, I really can't recall. I wish I recalled his name. Maybe I'll check it again and I'll be to recall, I'll tell you. So this is a very beautifully, how the judge summarized that it is not the two parties who are being judged. It is actually the judge who's being, sorry, it is not the two parties who's come to the court are being, tested. It is actually the judge who's being tested on all those things, because both the parties knows what they did to each other, who's wrong and right. They know it. They are just coming to prove it in the court, so that, there's an enforcement law. So it is actually the judge who's being tested. So let's talk about our first right, fundamental right, which is right to equality. The constitution says that, the government shall not deny to any person in India equality before the law, or the equal protection of the law. So these are two, there are two parts of this right to equality: equal protection of the law, equality before the law, and equal protection of the laws. Okay. So wait, yeah. So that person says, it means that the law applies in the same manner to all. Matlab same manner to, it does not differentiate who you are and everything. It is same for everyone. Okay, whether you are rich, poor, everything, whatever your status is. Okay. So this is what is called rule of law. Or okay, rule of law is the foundation of any democracy, and it is the foundation of any democracy. It means that no person is above the law. This is very important, that everybody is equal in the eyes of law, and no person is above the law. There cannot be any distinguish between a political leader, government official, and ordinary citizens. So there cannot be, differentiation between that, you are a lawyer or a government servant or just an ordinary citizen like me, like me and you, we all will be treated equally before the eye of law, and we'll have an equal opportunity to even claim whether we whatever we want to say. Every citizen, from the prime minister to a small farmer in a remote village, is subjected to the same law. So everybody, it's a very important line that it's written that everyone, all the citizens of the country are subjected to the same laws. No persons can legally claim any special treatment of privilege just because he or she happens to be an important person. For example, a few years ago, a former prime minister of country faced a court case on the charges of cheating. The court finally declared that he was not guilty, but as long as the case continued, he had to go to the court, give evidence, and file papers just like any other citizen. So it's shown that everybody, whether you are politician, government servant, or just an ordinary citizen, we all are equal in the eye of the law. Okay, this basic position is further clarified in the constitution by spelling out some some implications of the right to equality. The government shall not discriminate against any citizen on grounds only, this word is very important. Okay, pay attention. This word only is very important. It's clearly written that the government shall not discriminate against any citizen only on the ground of, only is very important, okay, only on the ground of religion, race, caste, sex, or place of birth. If they are discriminating, or if circumstances happen that this is one of the reasons and some more, then if it depends on the situation, but they cannot discriminate only on the basis of religion, caste, creed, place of birth, and everything. Every citizen shall have access to public places like shops, restaurants, hotels, and cinema halls. Similarly, there shall be no restrictions with regard to the use of wells, tanks, bathing ghats, roads, playgrounds, and places of public resorts maintained by government or dedicated to the use of public. So here it's clearly written that you cannot, this is actually very important, okay, so don't mess it up. If you want to summarize anything about right to equality, just write this in your own words and you'll be good to go. This might appear very obvious, but it was necessary. We all the time we say, "Arey, this is so simple, this is the common, this is so in common understanding," but when in reality things like this happen, it is not so common. It's very difficult to understand for people like you, me, and everybody, all the other citizens. This gets a very tricky part to incorporate these in the constitution of a country where the traditional caste system did not allow people from some communities to access all the places. You see, we say that, okay, this is so self understood, only all the people are supposed to be treated, but India has a history of discrimination based on the caste system. And that is why it was very important to clarify and write it in very bold that everybody is equal in front of the eye and nobody can be discriminated only on the place of caste, creed, gender, sex, place of birth, and everything. That is why it's clearly mentioned, because we know that people in India and in anywhere else, they can take benefit of anything. One word can be molded into so many other things and you won't even realize it. So that's there. From some communities to access all the public places. The same principle applies to all public jobs. All citizens have equality of opportunity in the matters relating to employment or appointment to any position in the government. No citizen shall be discriminated against or made ineligible for employment on the grounds mentioned above. And they cannot be mentioned, all the people have equal chance of opportunity to get into employment and everything. And uh, they cannot be discriminated on the basis of these, especially caste system. It's very prevalent in India. I'm telling you, I'm saying it again and again because it's very important, and we miss it out on these things. Okay, so, no citizen shall be discriminated against or made ineligible for employment on the grounds mentioned above. You've read the chapter 5 that the government of India has provided reservation for scheduled caste, SC, and OBC. Various governments have different schemes for giving preference to women, poor, physically handicapped in some kind of the jobs. Are these reservation against the right to equality? They are not. For equality does not mean giving everyone the same. For equality does not mean giving everyone the same treatment, no matter what they need. Equality means giving everyone an equal opportunity to achieve whatever they are capable of. This line is very important. Okay, keep it in mind that it does not mean that equality does not mean that you have to give equal treatment to everyone, but equality means giving everyone an equal opportunity to achieve whatever they are capable of. You have need to have a common platform from where the race starts. Sometimes it is necessary to give special treatment to someone in order to ensure equal opportunity. Sometimes there is a need, because India has gone through a lot. It's not what you see, you, me, and your parents, we see it today. India has a history, of caste system and so many other things. So we see that actually it's not about, it's about equality, is about, giving an equal opportunity so that people are able to achieve what they are capable of. And sometimes it is necessary to give special treatment to someone in order to ensure equal opportunity. This is what job reservations do. Just to clarify this, the constitution says that reservation of this kind are not a violation of the right to equality. So this is a very important line that's written, that the constitution says that reservation is not a violation of a right to equality. The principle of non discrimination extends to all social life as well. The constitution mentions one extreme form of social discrimination, the practice of social untouchability. The practice of untouchability, and clearly directs, the government to put an end to it. The practices of untouchability has been forbidden in any form. That means any form of untouchability is not allowed in India. Untouchability here does not mean refusal to touch people belong to certain. Untouchability doesn't mean that you won't touch any person. This is not. It means that, people belonging to certain caste, they or it refers to any belief or social practice which looks down upon people on account because they have birth with certain caste labels, because they had been they have certain caste labels and everything, like the concept of purity and pollution and everything that's linked to it. So go to the playground of the school, of any stadium, and watch a 400-meter race on a track. Fire the competitors on the outer lane placed ahead of those in the outer lane in the starting point of race. What would happen if all the competitors started the race at the same line? Which of these two would have been an equal and fair race? Apply this to competition for jobs. Okay, observers, observe any big public building. Is there a ramp for physically handicapped? Ramp is like a plank, plain, usually there are steps. So if there's no steps and it's a plank, so it's a plain area, that's usually called you know mm, ramp. Okay. For And this is ramps are usually used for people who are not able to walk, and they walk through, they use a wheelchair. Are there any other facilities that make it possible for the physically handicapped to use a building in the same way as anyone else? Should these special facilities be provided? If it leads to extra expenditure on the building, do these special provisions go against the principle of equality? See, when it comes to about rams and wheelchair, there every building, whether it's the government building, school building, or any institution, whether it belongs to public and private, they should have rams. Because when we talk about equality, we are saying that people who have wheelchair, it's not that they cannot go, they can move from one place to other, but what's making them stop is that there are steps and not a plain service. So if plain service is surface or ramp is there, they can easily walk from one place to another with the help of a wheelchair. Okay. So, and when we talk about race, okay, like for the 16 sorry 400 the playground or the tracks are made like this. Okay, the tracks are, they are made like this. Okay. So everybody is supposed to cover this distance, this much, a distance of, for example, it's a race, this thing, it's a race of 400 meter or 100 meter. Let's take example of 100 meter. Then suppose 100 meter is from here to here. If this person is also going to, this person stands here, if this person is also going to stand here, and he also has to finish at this point, it won't be fair. So this person, now this person is made to stand here, so that, this is sorry, this is the diameter, right? This is diameter. Okay, the diameter. And from here to here, its radius. So they should have the equal distance, and that is why a person who's made to stand on the outer ring, they are made to stand a little ahead, so that the total distance covered by them, by all of them, is equal. Okay. So so which looks down upon people on the birth of, because they have certain caste labels. Such practices denies them interaction with others or access to public places as equal citizens. So the constitution made untouchability a punishable offense, and it is a punishable offense. Many forms of untouchability. In 1919, P Sainath wrote a series of news reports in the Hindu. The Hindu is a very, um, news, it's a very good newspaper. You should also take a catch on, take a look at it. If it comes in your home, just go through it, describing untouchability and caste discrimination that was still being practiced among Dalits or persons belonging to scheduled caste. He traveled to various parts of the countries, of the country, and found that in many places tea stalls kept two kinds of cows, one for Dalits and one for others. Barbers used to serve Dalit, refused to serve Dalit clients. Why? They do not have hair? They have hair of different kind? No, everybody should be able to access the facility of barber. Dalit students were made to separately in the classroom and drink water from the separate pitcher. Why are you made to sit differently? We know the case of that we know the case of a Balmiki student who shared his experience. I cannot recall the exact name, but it was some Balmiki. Okay. uh I think VK Balmiki or something, right? I'm sorry, I cannot. It's one of the social sciences books that we've covered. So they were, the student was made to sit separately. Then he was even made to clean the playground and everything. That is not right. Dalit grooms were not allowed to ride a horse in the wedding procession. This is still, this still happens. You go on Google and search that wedding procession being cancelled and everything. You will find an article on this, news articles, and not one. You'll find many articles that the procession, the wedding procession was not allowed in the area of the Brahmins or everything, upper caste people. You will find an article, and I guarantee you there is an article. There are many articles actually. Dalits were not allowed to use common hand pump, or if they did, the hand pumps were washed to purify. So why do you think that somebody is clean, somebody is not clean? Everybody is equal. All these fall under the definition of untouchability. Can you think of some examples on your own area? So you can also imagine in your own area if that has happened.